Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and so I was agonizing for a very long time about when I would actually be doing this. This is technically what I suppose the belated, if you will, Chris Chan Blue Sky monthly update. Despite the fact that this is the first video of its type since the year started, nearly 6 weeks ago, as of the recording of this video. And unfortunately, what you're about to see for yourself, ladies and gentlemen, is that this will give you a bit of an idea about what Chris has sort of been up to, at least since the year began, because there's not a terrible amount to talk about, but I think there's enough to fill up the docket. So, for reasons that are, well, explanatory once we get to them, Chris, at some point in, I believe, October of 2024, did what quite a lot of people were doing at the time, is that they jumped ship from Twitter to a new site called Blue Sky, and well, that's kind of where Chris has been posting ever since. I don't know off the top of my head whether or not Chris still has access to his account on Twitter, but even so, I think it's fair to assume that Chris, well, the only thing to do was to move over to Blue Sky because, well, for reasons, it's the same reason why I'm on Blue Sky, is because forget Elon Musk and forget Donald Trump and, etc., etc. But with all that being said and done, let's actually get into what on earth Chris has been doing. So the first thing to note is Chris wishing us all a happy new year, wishing you peace and love in 2025, and Chris, Chris, if he was a penguin, I suppose, wheeling away the four. It must be also said, yes, that 2025 may be only 6 weeks old, and yet the only good thing that's actually happened this year so far is that the Sonic the Movie Hedgehog franchise has grossed $1 billion worldwide. And I haven't even seen the movies, but I'm telling you right now, that's the first good thing to mention. The second first thing to mention is that literally just under 3 weeks ago, Chris actually said something on Blue Sky. I know, but wait till you hear this. Power to you, Saberspark. 101% agree that AI-generated media is beyond subpar. I feel and agree that human-created art and content is far superior as they contain this love and soul as well as care and compassion into the media. Unfortunately, it's one of those occasions where, you know what, Chris is not wrong, but unfortunately, it's not going to stop people using it anytime soon. I'm looking at you, Sony. So yes, this stems from the channel. This is the worst AI content farm on YouTube. Yeah, honestly, these things. I know YouTube isn't particularly reluctant to ban these things anytime soon, but as long as people don't watch them, then they can't win. Meanwhile, not to mention how bad AI would take jobs from people. This is ironic because AI, if judging by Chris's record, I think AI managed to jump the ship literally 21 years in advance, but let's pretend as though we didn't know that and can see the irony. AI is not to be constantly relied upon because of likelihood of failure in programming, and in media companies mistakenly firing artists and creative people for AI. You essentially get MLP. Here we go. It's all going to come back to My Little Pony Gen 5. Even though My Little Pony Gen 5 literally doesn't use AI whatsoever. I know Chris is probably under the impression that the designs looked as though they were the invention of artificial intelligence, but, well, I can tell you right now they're not. Not to mention recklessly encouraging next-gen children and individuals to be really uncultured and brain-numbed. I hardly see how that's going to be the case. You know what? With the internet, we have access to more information about every culture and every language and every art form all over the world. So, actually, this actually only adds more into it. When you think about it, artificial intelligence, it's more just sort of like it's a niche art movement in which it seems to be more about the worship about, of industrialism and about computer-generated imagery as opposed to things that were created through the power of thought and imagination and practice. People only become brain-numbed if they don't question anything that they're putting in front of them. We need mentally and emotionally strong individuals inspired by authentic, high-quality, soul-filled stories and content with thought-provoking ideas and thought sets with light-powered encouragement and guidance. Don't be greedy and churning out low-quality crap. Kids, teens, and babies are meant to think and understand as much as possible. You know, considering that I don't know where Chris is getting this idea from. I mean, you could argue Chris is not technically wrong, but Chris is not a teacher. What background does Chris have in education to determine whether and what, you know, is best, you know, for kids, teens when it comes to, like, you know, the media and stuff like that? For my, listen, I'll keep this short. In my point of view, ladies and gentlemen, the most important thing you could ever teach a child is the difference between knowing and understanding. A child may know, you know, a concept about why it's bad to steal, but unless he actually understands it, then what's the point of knowing about something if he doesn't understand why stealing is wrong? You know, etc., etc. But it's probably it's probably far more complicated than that. But take this from me. If Chris really knew that, then why hasn't he turned out anything actually meaningful, like, or anything to get people to think? And before anybody says Solid Shoe, guys, think about it. What did Solid Shoe actually teach you that you could learn from? Outside of what not to do. What not to do criteria doesn't count, because anyone can say, you know, it makes sense why you don't do this, that, and the other. It also makes sense that even after you get politely turned down by your best friend, you don't go ahead and make a drawing about them in a very compromising position, claiming that they will be better educated by the content. Yeah, exactly. So in a sense, make them better quality like they used to before 2019, as the humans do, not the newfangled AI video generating garbage. Chris says this based on no also, before 2019, as the humans do. Can I just remind Chris that, you know what, things that came out after 2019, Bluey, I'm pretty sure, came out after 2019, or that one movie, what was it called? Oh yeah, Here, There, and Everywhere, all at once, after 2019. The Sonic the Hedgehog movies, you know what, they came after 2019, unless, of course, this entire premise could best be determined about what exactly Chris determines counts as quality, I suppose. Then again, let's remind ourselves that Chris hasn't seen much action ever since, you know, he got arrested. Somebody else then points down, do you still hate Michael Snyder? And, well, to be honest, yeah, no, other people try to, like, put this point in that, well, unfortunately, somebody says here, can't believe I'm saying this, but yeah, Chris, you're correct there, stay safe, Chris. Yes, but don't feed into Chris's ideas. Yeah, you know what, Chris may be right in one sense, but that doesn't really make up for anything else he's done. Also, this is an article I straight up want. At one point, I am going to be doing Chris's quick light store on Etsy, because how Chris makes any money on that at all, despite the fact the context of we know exactly who Chris is quite frankly outrageous. Anyway, 8 commissioning slots. Yeah, basically, well, I suppose Chris finally managed to get his hair properly blue this time, I suppose. Okay, so now this is there is something a little bit more about this we'll be coming to in a second, but it's going to prove extremely interesting when we get into this. So here we go right now. Whenever you are about to find a fault with someone, ask yourself the following question: what fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I am about to criticize? Marcus Aurelius. I thought, or to put it another way, judge not lest thou shall be judged. You know, I thought Chris read the Bible, and I thought it was one of the things that you would have thought immediately, like I would. Chris would have known better but to pick up on stuff like that. Similarly, do not hate on others with things that you are yourself. I don't. Why Chris needs to include on in the middle of this sentence, I literally have no idea. Do not hate others. Yeah, grammatically that just makes more sense, wouldn't you say? But then again, using on, don't hate on others. It's kind of been a thing with Chris's slang, I suppose. And well, I think that just about says it as well. I think we can all safely hate you, Chris. None of us violated our mothers. Well, yeah. And in case people out there may be asking, well, Chris was never actually convicted for it, or rather, Chris never had to there was dropped because of a lack of evidence. Well, just because there's a lack, it doesn't mean to say it didn't happen. Like, as I keep saying, I can't stand in court and say Chris did this, that, and the other. Everything Chris himself admitted, everything Chris admitted to doing, via the call to Bella. So, but I can't say it didn't happen at the same time. I may not have seen it with my own eyes, but that's what we kind of have to bring it back to a bit. Despite the way Chris said it and all the rest of it. Here's a bit of wisdom for you all. Oh God, Chris was really battering the whole wisdom card this last few weeks, hasn't he? Sometimes, even as teens and adults, we need to be reminded of how to do good for and with ourselves and others. I'm going to try that again. We need to be reminded of how to do good for and with ourselves and others. Chris, you didn't need to have two ands in the same sentence. Honestly, we're going back to 2019 when it comes to Chris's grammar. Is this Magi-chan's working? So yes, it is good to have a favourite or new good quality affirming show playing in the background. Is it though? Also in that, everyone is going to have at least one traumatic event in their childhood or past, which is best to give yourself and your inner child security and assurance. Caring for yourself allows you to better care for others as well. Not always, Chris. You know what? Self-pity. Well, as we see with you, Chris, self-pity is not necessarily the greatest thing people do. Caring for yourself allows you to better care for others as well. There's a reason behind me time to heal and process. Is that what Barbara's receiving right now after what you did, Chris? I mean, come on, at this point, everybody else has been saying it, so I may say it as well. Or rather, do you think that's what Michael Snyder was probably going through when you hit him with your car, Chris? After you were trespassing for the third time. And of course, the 15th Captain British, well, is at it again. Then, of course, we have this person here, Penelope Cash, going, oh no. Oh no. No. Oh no. I've only just first of all, as in Penny Cash. Is that what this is supposed to be? Oh, it's just meant to be a troll LARPing as Panda Halo and Clyde Cash's daughter Penny. And look what it says here, at Panda Halo at Blue Sky. Oh no. You know what? Actually, while we're here, please tell me this person hasn't just responded again and again and again. Little Big Planet. Okay, no posts yet. Okay, so is it just responses? Okay, so I can only assume this is just somebody LARPing as a troll, I guess. Because they play into Chris's delusions. Yeah, and that blew my mind for a second. Then of course there was the okay, so you know what? It's funny because if you've seen the fact that I'm up to part 70 in the Chris Chandler Comprehensive History series, you might already be aware of the fact that we spent a lot of the last 2 weeks talking about Chris being blocked left, right, and center by My Little Pony content creators that he himself likes. Well, that Chris likes, I should say. And what does Chris do? Despite the fact that, well, Chris still hasn't caught on why those people dislike Chris. Well, what else do? You just go onto Blue Sky and you just do it again, because once again, Chris is after 6 years, Chris continues to prove time and time and time again that Chris has learned F all. The only reason why I'm saying this is because at least Chris, hashtags and stuff like that, instead of actually adding the people into this. Maybe it's because those people aren't on Blue Sky, or maybe they're not even on Twitter anymore. I really don't know. I'm watching this for the first time. It resonates with me. I don't want to say more because I'm keeping personal details offline nowadays. Well, we'll see about that, won't we? But thank you, Dr. Wolf and Lightning Bliss, for your continued good works and family/friend values in them. Happy 2025. And this was just 10 days ago, so you're a little bit late on the ball there when it comes to this. And, well, your tax dollars at work, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I express my gratitude for one person who sent me a kind letter and this card over the holiday. I did not get many letters over the holiday in the mail. I wonder why, Chris. But still, I am thankful for this one kind individual. And it's Sylveon EX. And it looks, to be honest, like quite... How much... Is it quite expensive? I honestly don't know. So, now again, whether you want to say Chris just got this for himself, or whether or not somebody really did send this to Chris. Maybe Flutter sent this to Chris or something, I don't know. Meanwhile, read all about the background of Quickville's Autobot team now on Quicklight, which, yeah, if you've never seen what Quicklight is, well, this is obviously something that we're just going to have to, cover something different, because, well, already it's already hurting my eyes. True and honest website, they call it. And, well, we're nearing the end of this, but apparently Chris is now getting to the point of actually selling what I can only imagine is like a Solitude plushie. And, well, well, as you can see, well, first of all, this should just about says it all. Look at this. Official Chris Chan Solitude medallion, £33. You know what? In America, this would probably be something close to about, what, $38? Something like that. The Rose Tube medallion, handmade by Quick. It doesn't say handmade or anything like that with the original one. This one, £66. That's setting you back nearly $72. And then, handmade ones called by 60. A Megastone medallion, 82 quid. And look at all the rest of this. You can't get, an issue of Solitude Zero for anything less than 25 quid. And then there's just spiritual talismans. It looks like just and a mini totem, and, well... Oh, and by the way, yes, Temple of Solitude Sacred Rocks, aka these are just rocks that Chris is just stealing from the drive at 14 Branch Lane Court. Yes, for some reason Chris is purposely going back to his mom's house just to steal rocks and then make his way out. Meanwhile, and this was probably the most recent one, because less than 2 days ago, Donald Trump apparently banned trans women from competing in trans sports. And Chris decided to give a pretty, actually, to be honest, trans girls are girls, let them play is, what Chris puts out. I suppose I don't know whether or not Chris actually has anything else to say about this, but, well, honestly, that's the only other thing I worry that Chris is going to start doing again, is that Chris is going to make this entire the next couple of days ultra political, because outside of planes falling out of the sky for no reason, for some reason the news over the last week has literally been consisting of planes falling out of the sky, and, well, concerns about Donald Trump literally starting a trade war, not only in North America but also in Europe as well. So what do you guys think? Do you think trans girls should be allowed to play do you, okay, so what do you suppose like the criteria would be for trans people to like play in sports? Is it that if you let's say if you still had a penis, would you still be considered a male in that sense? I'm only asking because I honestly don't even know what I'm supposed to. But then again, how many like transgender people do you know who compete like in like, you know, huge organized sports? I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I certainly can't name any off the top of my head. But then again, this is also one of those things where you wonder how many people is this technically going to be affecting. But I don't have an answer to that, and it's probably best that Chris doesn't give an answer to it either, because, well, what does Chris technically know? Also, I'm not entirely sure if it's the best idea to Chris to get involved in discussions that don't necessarily concern Chris, if that makes sense. But then again, that would bleed into a much larger discussion about what people in the who are transgender really think about Chris. But, well, that's a discussion for another day. And finally, just for what it's worth, mail and parcels will be forwarded to me, or I'll pick them up either way. Because for some reason, all of Chris's mail is still going to 14 Branch Lane Court for some reason. I honestly don't know why, but there you are. So, I suppose when all is said and done, I think Chris is, for the most part, is trying to keep it down to actual business, I suppose, because, well, outside of concerns about, you know, a Panda Halo, a penny cash troll lurking about, which I don't really think is going to go anywhere, it seems to be mostly regarding around Chris's business on Quicklight, which we'll be getting to at some point. And finally, yeah, it's kind of I don't know if it's just of Chris's own volition to like tune down a lot of posts that Chris makes, or whether or not this is just Chris decided that this is what they wanted to do. But with all that being said and done, I hope all of you guys enjoyed this slightly different article, and I can't necessarily say by the end of February if there's anything else to talk about, but we'll get to something eventually. And I cannot wait to see all of you guys again in the next video. So take care, and bye-bye for now.